Hello, everyone, and welcome to a unique version of our webinar Wednesdays. We had a webinar a couple weeks ago, specifically talking about the career services offerings within the MSc program, and we had our guest, Pat Messina, with us, and due to some technical difficulties, for whatever reason, the webinar did not record. So this is a re-recording of our webinar because it went so well and the information is so important that we wanted to be sure that everybody had an opportunity to revisit the content and hear from Pat again. So here we are. Again, the topic today is the EPICS program and the career services offered within the MSc. And we have with us Pat Messina, who is the career services expert within the MSc program. And we're going to talk a little bit with Pat, have her introduce herself and tell us kind of her story. And then we have a series of kind of individual and group offerings through the career services that we do within MSc. So we'll talk about those a little bit and then wrap up with everybody. So to jump right in, Pat, welcome. Thank you for joining us again for this.
Thanks for having me.
And I wanted to start with, I think that your career story is so fascinating and interesting and informs obviously so much of what you do with our students. I was wondering if you could just start by kind of introducing yourself to everybody and telling us a little bit about what's led you to kind of where you are in this role with the MSc program.
Great, thanks, Toby. Well, my career path was certainly not a straight line. It was pretty squiggly, as a matter of fact. And I always loved those kind of career paths because one thing that I have done is kept the door open for any opportunities that have come my way. And I originally started out as a 7th and 8th grade art teacher back in the day and was trained in that career. And after a couple of years doing that, it led me to owning a catering company that specialized in organic foods. And because one of my side interests and something that I was really good at was actually cooking. And I love the food business. So I stayed in that for a couple of years and sold that business off, and subsequently went to work for other people in the hospitality industry and also in retail, which led me to work for companies like Let Us Entertain You, Crate and Barrel, some small independent companies that did catering. And eventually when I was at Lettuce, a friend of mine called me and kind of convinced me to go into recruiting, which I know, Toby, you can identify with as well. And I decided to take the jump. And because I discovered along the way of doing all of those different careers and working for different companies that I really loved business, finding out more about what made businesses tick. And also, when I hired people in my own business and when I was at Lettuce or dealt with the team, I really discovered about myself that I liked helping people reach their full potential and could spot things in people and acknowledge it in them, give them enough praise and help them along with some confidence to maybe stretch themselves and do well in their own careers. So one key story was I was on a contract position at Abbott Laboratories, and I went to the cafeteria one day for lunch, and this young woman came up to me and said, "Is your name Pat?" And I looked at her and I thought, oh my goodness, I don't recognize her. And I felt totally embarrassed, but I hadn't seen her since she was 15. And she had worked for me when I owned a catering company, and it was at the end of her block. My little shop was in a store in Wrigleyville, and she came and made sandwiches for me. We started at 2 in the morning, so she did it before she went to high school. And her family life was not fabulous, and she wanted to quit high school and just leave home and go get a job. So along with 2 women that worked with me at the time, we convinced her to stay and come to the shop after high school. We helped her with her homework, gave her a snack, and kind of coached her through some difficult times in her life. And when I met her in the cafeteria, she said to me, I have a picture of you and Oscar, who was my cook at the time, on my refrigerator. And it's my inspiration and why I'm here today. And I have 3 great kids and I'm working at Abbott Labs. And it was kind of an epiphany for me. It reinforced everything that I was doing at the time, recruiting. And I loved working the candidate side in recruiting. And that entailed making sure resumes were, had all the keywords and looked perfect so that when I sent them off to an employer, they would want to see the candidate. And also coaching the candidate through interview skills and other things that they might need in order to do well on the job interview. Because in recruiting, making a placement is really important because you certainly earn your living per placement. So I kind of discovered through trial and error that it was something that I was good at and I really love and enjoy. I get really energized when I do it.
I like that. It's, what's the old saying? If you love your work, then you never work a day in your life, something like that. And so it sounds like you enjoy what you're doing, which makes it, I'm sure, a lot more fun for you to come in every day. So
it does. I actually love coming into the office. Currently, right now, the office is a corner in my living room. But I've been holding Zoom conferences with students, and it's actually, I've been having a blast doing it. Yeah. It's been fun. I think we've still gotten great results. And I love coming to work.
So tell me about the last few years of your career and how that came about. So I know that you've been with MSC for a few years, but before that you were working in human resources at Northwestern. What were the kind of circumstances that brought you to Northwestern in the first place and then the switch over to MSC?
Okay, so I had a recruiting company with a friend of mine, an old friend of mine. We'd been friends since we were 19, and we were doing really great over Y2K. We had a lot of placements and things were rocking and rolling, and suddenly 9/11 happened and the lights went out. So everybody that we had placed over the last 4 or 5 years that we were in business were let go. And I needed income. I was kind of heartbroken that happened. Things stalled out. And I was fortunate enough to be recruited myself to work on the TSA project that the government had started. And I went and lived in Omaha for 4 months and helped hire all the TSA personnel for the airports in the surrounding area of Omaha, Nebraska. And then when I came home, I had been on a team of about 25 people, and we all kind of made a pact together to help each other get employed when we returned home. In other words, if one of us got called for a position, at the time I lived in Highland Park, and people were getting phone calls for jobs in Joliet or Aurora. And there were people on my team that lived out there. So we started to refer each other to different positions, and slowly people were getting hired. And one of the guys that was on my team called me and said, I just saw this fabulous job. It was posted. It's perfect for you. It's at Crate and Barrel. And I walked in and got hired and hit it off with everybody at Crate. Fabulous. Thought I was going to end my career there. And then in 2009, around then, the housing bubble burst. So I was unemployed once again. It seemed like it was a cycle at that point, but I remained unemployed for a little bit, but I contacted everybody that was on my team when things started to improve. And one of the guys that was on my team asked me if I lived close enough to Northwestern or could get there. And I did. I live in the city, only a few miles away. And a friend of his was the talent acquisition director at the time at Northwestern. And I got an interview, went in, got a job offer all within 24 hours and wound up at Northwestern on the talent acquisition team. Through that, I met Anne Marie Adams and Amy, who are involved in our team as well at MSC, and kind of helped Amy get her position at MSC. And actually, Anne Marie was one of my clients. She was working in athletics at the time and wanted to make a move to do something else. And when the position opened up at MSC, I thought she was a perfect fit. So they got their jobs. I also, the gentleman that I actually report to, Michael Johnson, I got him his job. I brought him over from the University of Chicago to the School of Communication. So when the position for career services opened up, they were kind of coaching me for almost over a year to come over and join the team. And eventually I did. It's been a great fit. It really shows you the power of networking, using your network. You never know what can happen. It's been great. It's been really a great journey.
So, well, and that's also an important, I guess, piece of the story is that the career services offerings in the MSC program are pretty new, less than, well, about 5 years old total. So Michael was kind of the first person to have this job. Then you came in shortly thereafter when he took over the directorship for all of the career services for the whole school. And career services are something that really differentiate the MSC program. I know when I was a student back in 2000, when was it? 2011 and 12. Our career services was, we were allowed one 30-minute phone call with an outside consultant. Anything after that cost money, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars for the one-on-one consulting. And now that is one of the many, many pieces that is kind of baked into the services that are offered to all of our students and alumni now. Can you talk a little bit about the one-on-one coaching, kind of what that looks like from your end, what you do to prepare with the one-on-one meetings with students and what they can expect from it?
Sure. You know, you can't, as you know from being in your program, you can't accomplish much in 30 minutes.
No.
You know, at least I can't with the people that I coach, because I really like to get to know the students. And it's certainly just like developing a friendship or a working relationship, it takes more than 30 minutes. From the first day, I introduce myself, offer my services, and my hope is that students will take advantage of that right away from the first week, and so that we can get to know each other. They come to me for various reasons. One might be that they're maybe entry level and possibly looking for one of their first jobs outside of having internships as an undergrad. And we start working on resumes, cover letters, things like that. Maybe they come to me and they really don't know what they want to do after graduation. Remember, the MSc degree is very broad. It covers so many industries and so many different job titles. So some of that can almost, even though it's a great thing to have all that to choose from, it can be overwhelming. So I can sit with somebody, and whether we do use some assessment tools or just have some chats and work through things, I can help them decide maybe what they want to do, at least for their first position. If people are kind of moving along in their career and already have experience and they're working at a firm that they really love, I can help them get a promotion, you know, position themselves well for a promotion, how to advocate for themselves, which sometimes it's easy to do for somebody else, but it's not that easy to do for yourself. So we can practice that. I've helped some students do salary negotiations. Maybe their review is coming up and they want to try and get the most out of a salary increase. And sometimes that's a scary thing for people to talk about money. It was for me in the beginning when I was a recruiter. We're not really educated or prone to talking about salary and money in our culture, although we're all interested in that and we need to pay our bills and we want to have validation in terms of earning a great living, but we don't talk about it. So for some people, it's more difficult than others. Toby, you do a great job of that too. I've learned a lot from you about actually negotiation and how it's done. So I'll help people through that as well. Then it's just, we can also do a lot of networking with alumni. If you're interested in a particular company or industry, and we have alumni that are in those fields, I can kind of network, two people together, at least make an introduction and see where it goes from there. So that's kind of scratching the surface of one-on-one.
Well, that's it's so much more, right, than like what I was saying before, the 30-minute conversation that I got to have. And I remember you telling a story of alumni, I don't know if it was a year or two ago, where she had a new job. And the salary negotiations is so important, right? I think that a lot of people in their lives are going to maybe negotiate salary 3, 4, 5 times at the most. Whereas the human resources person on the other side is doing this day in and day out. And so it seems to be kind of an unfair balance, right, between experiences. And the story that, if I remember, was a woman had received an offer and she called you asking what to say, and you kind of almost gave her a script. And then there was this back and forth of, okay, now say this, and they're going to say this, and now you say this, and they're going to say this. And it worked out. If I remember.
Yeah, it did. And, I especially love coaching people that are scared to do that.
Yeah.
And, again, it's like purchasing a car, right? The guy selling you the car does that 10 times a day, over and over. For me, I buy a car once a decade or even longer.
Right.
So, it's scary, right? So I had to pick somebody that I was comfortable with negotiating that. And actually the person I bought my car from helped me get a better price on it. She was phenomenal. She actually reminded me of things that I help people do. And again, in a regular, if you were to hire a coach, you'd have to be paying for those services.
Right.
And they're free. When you come to the MSC, and my door is always open. I've seen some students once a week during the whole program. Yeah. I'm still talking to them even after graduation because my services are available to alumni as well.
Right.
Some alumni have come to me, they graduated 10 years ago, some even longer. Maybe they're returning to the workforce and need to up their skills a little bit and just clear their heads about how to go about the process. Maybe some have been laid off, and right now, it's a difficult time. They might be furloughed. Just want to have somebody to chat with to see what the trends are out there and how they're going to navigate the job search.
One of the other things I know you spend a lot of time on is resume prep. And I think I forgot to tell you, I had a friend just a couple months ago, went to an outside consultant and spent hundreds of dollars getting somebody to help him put a resume together. And it's crazy how much money people spend on these services that, again, like you said, are included. Can you talk a little bit about kind of where you start with helping people put a resume together? I know that they're not necessarily, well, they are. They're industry specific, company specific, those types of things. Where do you jump off?
Good question. I usually get a copy of the resume, their current resume, okay? And so I look that over, and then I just start asking probing questions. And there's a formula, and in the MSC program, we do a capstone, program assignment with the students. And part of that is writing a value proposition, which people will learn what that is once they're in the program. But I use the value proposition extensively to help form the resume. And we walk through the resume. We often change it completely. We'll redo the content, use keywords, make sure that it's tailored to the industry they want to go for, just make it look stronger, sometimes starting all the way from scratch again, completely. Because a lot of times people are bringing a resume to the program that they've used either forever and just kept adding to the same document, so it kind of looks like they've pieced things together, or it still looks entry level and they might have 10 years of experience.
Right.
And resume styles do change, through the years. If I look back at a resume, even my own from 10 years ago or 15 years ago, it's going to look very different than what I'm doing right now.
Right.
Again, it's just a matter of using some techniques, doing a lot of probing, answering questions, tailoring it. Maybe the student comes in with a job description that here's the job I really want. This is what I'm shooting for. So we will tailor a resume to that job description.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of work. I remember, I mean, it used to be a lot of the things that we thought were true 10 and 20 years ago aren't the same anymore, right? It used to be, it had to be one page and there was a specific format for everything. And now, a resume format for an advertising company looks very different than a resume for a manufacturing job or finance or something like that. And all the time that you spend not only knowing enough to know what works in different industries and companies, but helping tailor that to the individuals is a lot. Tell us more about what is a value proposition. I think they're two words that go together. We hear a lot. Can you unpack it a little bit? What does it mean to a student in the MSc program?
The value, that's a tricky one. I actually had to write a value proposition when I came to MSc to kind of give a presentation on why you guys should hire me.
Right.
And it was really difficult for me. Again, it's kind of about talking about yourself and assessing your skills and what are you going to bring to a future company that you're going to go to work for? Mm-hmm. Why would they hire you? A company hires you because you're going to do something for them. So it's all about taking stock of your skill set and presenting it to a future employer. And so it is talking about yourself. It's taking a look at your past accomplishments, but it's really about what you're going to do in the future for somebody. So it's been a difficult assignment for a lot of students. But again, through one-on-one visits and talking about it, we've created some really great value propositions for people. And each one is really unique to that person. I try to stay away from typical boilerplate corporate language, right, and really talk in an authentic voice.
Yeah. I think it's such a great opportunity for the students because as an individual, right, we can become, like you said, uncomfortable talking about ourselves or kind of, you sound arrogant or like you're bragging about yourself when you're talking about what you're great at. But having a partner, so it's you and the rest of the folks in the program, to help kind of suss that out and reconfirm and affirm and even help discover new strengths or things that you might bring to a potential employer makes it so different, right? And I think, like you said, a lot of people struggle with the comfort around talking about themselves in that way. But when you have a partner and an ally in that kind of journey, it makes it a completely different experience, I think.
It makes it totally different. I love the word, arrogant that you use. And we often think, gee, if I talk about myself, I'm going to sound arrogant. But I like to think of it as enthusiasm. If this is something that you really love to do, there's ways to frame it. You might not walk in and say, I'm the greatest at what I do. But there's ways to present that enthusiasm that really capture and connect with an employer where they're going to want to hire you because of that enthusiasm. And that enthusiasm can be really a great skill that overshadows some things that you might not even have for the position, but they love the fact that you love what you're doing or what you're going to be doing.
Right. Yeah, that enthusiasm can be contagious. I like it a lot. So now we kind of transition into so that was a focus on some of the individual services that we provide. Let's talk a little bit about the things that we provide to the group as a whole, what small, medium, large size groups kind of take advantage of these. One of those are company site visits. What is a company site visit, Pat?
A company site visit is pretty much self-explanatory.
Sure.
I select a couple companies through the year, maybe one each quarter, hopefully, and they can range from, a big player like a Facebook or a Google office, or some of our alumni-owned companies. They might own PR firms, consulting companies, marketing firms. And we take a group of students to visit the office. And we've had great parties at offices. They entertain us. They give us a little tour of the site, but also tell us really in depth about the company, what they do, what a day looks like working there. We get to meet other employees on site. We just visited this year. We had a great visit. The last one we did before the lockdown was Rotary International, which is a nonprofit headquartered right in Evanston, but really a worldwide company, very large, and doing phenomenal work. And we had a great afternoon. It was stellar.
That's terrific.
And I think it let students know about companies that they maybe hadn't heard of before, and opens the door for some great networking with internal employees there. We had at Rotary, the HR person came and talked to us, the recruiter, the talent acquisition person came. So as they post positions, MSC students are certainly looked at really well.
Yeah. And I think if I remember correctly, there was even one that ended up in a placement not too long ago at a PR firm where you had the site visit, and one of our students, shared business cards and ended up with an internship and a job placement
Yes.
while she was still in the program.
And that's what our hope is ultimately. Yeah. And very often those same employers will email me when they are posting positions. I try to keep, a dialogue going with them. So I'll know about positions the day they're getting posted. Yeah. And a lot of times I will have a student in mind, maybe for a position somebody's looking. I will post those positions to the class Facebook page. Mm-hmm. They also get posted in Handshake, which is a portal that Northwestern uses to post positions. But if I get a hold of them and I'm familiar with the current cohort or the last couple cohorts, yeah, I will post those immediately. So you sometimes get first dibs on things.
That's great. You also host speaker series. Tell us a little bit more about that. How do you decide what they're going to talk about, who to invite, those types of things?
Well, first of all, I sometimes ask the very people in the class if there's anybody in particular that they'd like to hear from, or an industry that they would like to hear from. I've brought in, again, people from PR firms, marketing firms. We had a panel of recruiters that came in to speak. We have subject matter experts that come in that might know everything about LinkedIn and give us some secrets that I don't even know about. It's hard to know the answers to everything. Right. So there are those experts out there that we like to bring in that can give us phenomenal information about networking, interviewing skills, trends in the industry. We often hold those. We'll hold some in the evening, and many occur right during lunch. So it's not extra time out of your day, but it's while we're having lunch over at the Allen Center.
Yeah. Terrific. Yeah, a lot of those has been great. I've had an opportunity to sit in and listen to them. I've hosted a couple panels myself, and I know that they're highly beneficial in getting, like you said, to hear.
And it's a great it's great networking. Oh, yeah. Because you can trade your business cards, and they have resulted in some hires, and at least students finding out more about companies they might not be familiar with.
Right. And then finally, we've already touched on this a little bit, but you also work with our alumni.
Yes. And I love working with the alumni. And as I'm in the program longer, they've actually become friends. And it's twofold. One, I continue to help them find positions after graduation if that's what they're looking for. And some of the alumni become hiring managers themselves. That's sure. Goes back to recruiting, right? You help somebody get into a company, you watch their career, and along the way, suddenly they become a hiring manager, and now they've got 3 or 4 positions open that they're looking to hire for. And the first thing they're going to think about is the MSC program that they came out of, and they have such an affinity for. So again, I take advantage of that, and hopefully we can help future cohorts get placed faster and even easier that way.
Yeah, and it's something that, you know, you can't underestimate the value of the access that you have to the Northwestern Career Services. We like to say you're going to be an alumni a lot longer than you're going to be a student.
Yeah.
And to have an opportunity to come back in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, when your career continues to evolve and transition is just something that you don't get a lot of places. And so I know that you and the rest of the program are excited to be able to offer that.
Yeah, and I that's one of my favorite parts of, you know, establishing relationships with students, is that I'm going to really feel great 2 or 3 years down the road when I see how successful they've become as alumni.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm on Facebook with a few, definitely on LinkedIn with everybody, and it's really great to watch everybody's career trajectory.
Now is when we would normally ask for questions, but there's nobody here because we're re-recording this. And I guess before we sign off, the last thing I want to ask you, Pat, is if you have any specific advice or wish list, or what do you want incoming students to know or kind of be thinking about as they consider their relationship with the career services and the MSc program?
Okay, great opportunity to answer some things. First of all, I don't grade anybody. So my office is non-judgmental. And I really like to do this in a fun way that is not stressful. You know, you've got enough of that with class and your home life and work and everything. So I like to look at my office as somewhere where we're just going to have fun doing what we do. And then again, knowing that it's going to be an ongoing relationship. So my hope is that from day one, when you come in the program, that you make an appointment with me and start out sooner rather than later. You know, you may not even have intentions of looking for a new job, and then suddenly an opportunity opens up and the resume isn't ready, or you don't feel ready with a cover letter. And then we're scurrying, you know, in a 24-hour period, or you catch me at a time when I'm not available and I don't have the time to devote to you. So the sooner you come in for an appointment, the better, and then I can know where and how to help you to the best that I can. You know, it's taking advantage of all those things when you get into a program. And the EPICS team is terrific. I'm on a team of other people that do what I do in other programs in the School of Communication. And if one of my teammates can even help you more, we're all available to help you. And I have worked with students from other programs and vice versa. If there's a certain industry that you want to go into and one of the other EPICS team members has, you know, networking relationships with somebody, I'm going to send you right there. So
yeah, it truly takes a village, right? And,
totally.
And I think that's important to recognize too, is that it's a lot of resources working together, and a lot of it's a team effort. And for, you know, any prospective students or incoming students listening, you have a large group of staff and employees and faculties that are all rooting for you and on your team and hoping to be partners with you through this whole journey.
We're here to support you in any way that we can. And again, I look at my office as just a fun place to hang out. And I'm usually there almost every Saturday. That class is in session, so I'm available. We can meet before class. Sometimes I give talks before class. I help you form mastermind groups. There's just a ton of stuff that we work on. So I look forward to seeing everybody in the fall. If you have any questions, you can email me directly and find me on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Pat, thank you for agreeing to re-record this. I know your time is valuable, so I really appreciate it. I know I hear story after story from current students and alumni alike that their interactions with you and the opportunities that they get to engage with the career services are highlights of the program. So they value you. We are just thrilled that you're part of the team. So thanks a lot.
I'm so happy to be here. I love it. So.
All right. And with that, I will thank everybody that may be listening and watching. And there are, I'm sure, a handful of other videos and webinars that are recorded for you to enjoy next to this one. So be sure to take a look at those. And as always, let us know if you have any questions. You can reach us at msc@northwestern.edu. Again, msc@northwestern.edu. And we will sign off today. Thanks a lot, Pat. And thank you everyone for watching.
Take care. Bye-bye.